today, I should say, and Senator Cantwell. She's been a champion in this state, to keep player in the bipartisan infrastructure law, delivering high-speed internet all across the state of Washington, and because we're going to outcompete the rest of the world. She understands how we do. We got to have you have access to that information. Think about it. During the pandemic, how many of you parents had to drive your kids into a McDonald's?
So President Biden has announced his new plan to fight inflation and help low-income households across the country financially. The Biden administration says they are now ready to take action. So here's some breaking news. President Biden laid out a three-part plan for combating high inflation, which has been a major strain on his job approval rating. Before meeting with Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell, President Biden told reporters, "We now have a chance to build on historic recovery with an economy that works for working families. The most important thing we can do right now to transition from rapid recovery to stable, steady growth is to bring inflation down. That is why I've made tackling inflation my top economic priority." The first part of President Biden's plan was the acknowledgement that the Federal Reserve has a primary responsibility to control inflation. Biden also said his predecessor demeaned the Fed and argued that he won't do the same. The second part of his new plan involved making goods more affordable for families with a focus on high gas prices. His administration has blamed the crisis for the high gas price. Biden also touted the release of global oil reserves and called on Congress to pass clean energy tax credits. Biden's plan to make goods more affordable also includes fixing supply chains, improving infrastructure, and cracking down on the fees that foreign ocean freight companies charge to move products. He also touted policies to make housing more affordable and called on Congress to work on reducing the price of prescriptions and lowering the cost of childcare and healthcare. Biden's meeting with Jerome Powell indicates he has directed his attention to high inflation, including the high cost of goods and gas, which has affected the president's approval rating and is a challenge for Democrats. The meeting is his first between Biden and Powell since November. The third part of the president's plan involved reducing the federal deficit through reforms to the tax code. Biden also noted that the Congressional Budget Office projected that the deficit will fall by $1.7 trillion this year, which would be the largest reduction in history. Biden said with the policies right, the U.S. can transition from recovery to stable, steady growth, and bring down inflation without giving up all these historic gains. Lawmakers have made it clear that it may be a while for prices to go down. Biden said that a growth will look forward and look different during the transition to bring down inflation, knowing that there will be lower job creation numbers. Additionally, the president touted elements of the economy that have recovered since the crisis, including a decline in unemployment and American families increasing their savings and decreasing their debt. Some Indiana residents are already seeing extra money in their bank account. Payments from Indiana's automatic taxpayer refund are starting to arrive. Individual taxpayers will get $125, while married couples who file jointly will get $250. The state revealed back in December that Indiana taxpayers will get a refund after filing their 2021 taxes. The Department of Revenue and Auditor of State's office are working together to distribute the money. An estimated 4.3 million Indiana residents are eligible. The governor said the money is effectively a 12% cut in the average resident's annual income tax liability. Approximately $545 million will be returned to taxpayers after the state ended its fiscal year with a surplus to cause the refund. Most payments are expected to come via direct deposit using information from tax returns, and some taxpayers will get a check mailed to them instead. The refund is separate from any money Indiana residents may have received after filing their individual state income tax return.
And for many of us, this is the definition of a frontline community. And over the past 3 decades, Chairwoman, low-income Americans have become increasingly concentrated in poor neighborhoods like 4217. We know that individuals with disabilities experience greater levels of poverty, as we heard today, and lower levels of wealth than those without disabilities, requiring an average of an additional $17,000 per year to obtain the same standard of living for many of us. Meanwhile, individuals with disabilities are underemployed and underpaid, as again, many have testified. That means that the devastating impacts of our housing affordability crisis are falling even heavier on those living with disabilities. For me, environmental justice is disability justice, and economic justice is disability justice. So, Carrington, when it comes to purchasing a home, many individuals with disabilities are underbanked or credit invisible.
When will the stimulus checks be sent out? And is there going to be a fifth stimulus check? So in this video, I'll be answering all of your questions surrounding the fourth and even fifth stimulus relief package. But first, I want you guys to know that the federal government just announced that more than 2.3 million new stimulus checks have been sent out. And that represents over $4.2 billion in stimulus payments to Americans. In total, more than 169 million payments worth about $395 billion have been issued since Congress passed the American Rescue Plan Act in March. And everybody, I really hope that our politicians realize that American people are still in need of stimulus money. There are so many people across the country that are suffering, and a fourth stimulus check of $1,000 a month will definitely help those people out. And if you guys agree with me, then don't forget to give this video a like. Everybody, let's get this video to 1,000 likes to show our politicians that the American people still need a fourth stimulus payment.
This isn't about Dr. Fauci. It's not about his feelings, and I'm sorry if his feelings were hurt. You know, maybe he ought to buy an emotional support pony. But we're not debating dance moves on TikTok here. We're talking about millions of human lives, and here's what we know.
As you've alluded to, the big meeting after the G7, which will focus on all of these issues.
The privatization of Social Security benefits. That is what it does. Now, you're going to hear a lot of people coming up here and saying, well, we want to preserve Social Security. What they really mean is in order to preserve Social Security, they want to cut Social Security benefits. Maybe not for the people today.
In the fourth round of stimulus checks, 1.1 million stimulus payments with a value of more than $2.5 billion were plus-up payments. And that includes new or larger payments that were due to individuals and families after the 2020 tax returns have been processed. To date, more than 8 million of these payments have been sent. Additionally, more than 900,000 checks worth around $1.9 billion went to individuals who recently filed their tax returns with the IRS, but did not previously have the information on record. The latest rounds of payments includes more than $1.2 million direct deposits. Includes more than 1.2 million direct deposit payments, and while the rest were sent via paper checks. Everybody, that is awesome news for those of you who still have not received your third stimulus money. It is very likely that your $1,400 check will arrive this week. If you haven't received it already, we'll also show whether your income dropped, because if you folks did not end up receiving your $1,400 stimulus check, or the previous two $1,200 or $600 checks, you can still claim the money by filing a federal tax return. I want you folks to know that the IRS continues to issue checks each week, including plus-up payments to those whose previous stimulus checks fell short, and new payments to people that it did not previously have a record on. Now, a section for the recovery rebate credit has also been added to this year's return to help people claim any missing money from the first $1,200 or second